Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And it looks like some details just leaked on an upcoming big Xbox exclusive. We were talking about this just yesterday, but Xbox has a lot of games in development, and well, this one right here is actually one of the more interesting titles, and based off all of the information that we got today, yeah, I have to say I'm more excited about this game than ever before, and I think you all will as well, so we will go over all of that today. Now also, we do have some Nintendo news today, as it appears that an interesting game might be heading over to the Switch sometime here soon. So of course we will talk about all of that as well, plus plenty more. Let's go and jump right into it though, starting off with Fantasian. Now, Fantasian is a game that released earlier this year for Apple Arcade, and now typically I don't really talk about Apple Arcade games on this channel, but this is a special case because this one was developed by Mistwalker. Mistwalker has developed some of the most renowned JRPGs such as Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, The Last Story, and they also are headed up by Hironobu Sakaguchi, which of course is the father of Final Fantasy. So anytime that Mistwalker makes a game, JRPG fans are definitely paying attention, and well, it does appear that Fantasian is having some success over on Apple Arcade. It has now been confirmed that it is nearing 1 million total downloads thanks to the art director. That's actually pretty impressive for an old school JRPG like this that does kind of emulate your 90s style of JRPGs. And I really am happy to see them have success here. Lost Odyssey is one of my favorite JRPGs ever made, and I really do like Mistwalker a lot. So it's really great to see them have success here with Fantasian. Now, with that said, I still really do hope this game does eventually come to consoles and PC, because I think that a game like this would have even more success on platforms like that. Mistwalker has a lot of fans on consoles, and if they do ever decide to release these on platforms such as the Nintendo Switch, which does a really good job with JRPGs, I think this could be a big hit on a platform like that. I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see about all that, but for the time being, big congrats to Mistwalker. Let's go and talk about Monster Hunter Rise though, as it is set to release on PC January 12th of 2022. I know there's a lot of people out there that's really excited about this release. Monster Hunter does have a big fan base over on PC, and then also, I mean, some people are just going to want to maybe buy this game twice because they just want a more graphical, impressive game using the power of PC. Unfortunately though, it doesn't appear that we're going to get that perfect transition from the Nintendo Switch to the PC version as some may have hoped for. If you actually take a look here from the official response from Capcom, they had this to say. We've heard your request for cross-save and cross-play for Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, but unfortunately, after looking into it throughout the development process, we found we are unable to implement it this time. As always, we appreciate your continued feedback and support. So there you have it. Unfortunately, Monster Hunter Rise will not have crossplay or cross-save, which is actually very unfortunate, especially for a game like this. I mean, in terms of cross-save, that's a big one if you do currently own the Switch version, and maybe you were considering to get the more powerful version on PC. I mean, these games are quite grindy, to say the least, especially if you want to get all of the gear that you want, and the fact that you can't bring all that over to the PC version, yeah, that's a little disappointing. As for crossplay, though, this one's also critical because, well, Monster Hunter has a pretty big social aspect. I actually consider Monster Hunter Rise to be one of the better cooperative games on the market, so the fact that it doesn't have crossplay available on PC and Switch, yeah, it's a little disappointing. I mean, it's not deal-breaking or anything like that, but it is going to make some fans out there have to consider which version they want to purchase just a little bit more, because you may not be able to play with your friends if one has the Switch and then the other one has it on PC. So it's something to just kind of keep in mind, but at the same time, not all hope is lost that maybe they could add this in the future. They do note that they are unable to implement it at this time, so maybe they can figure a workaround sometime in the future. Let's go ahead and talk about Xbox though, as a big upcoming Xbox exclusive did leak out online, or at least some of the details, and wow, this game is sounding really good. And that is actually for Obsidian's upcoming RPG, Avowed. Now, the thing about Obsidian Entertainment is that they have a lot of promise going into this generation. They've always made really good RPGs all the way back to the original Xbox days. I mean, they've worked on games like KOTOR 2, Fallout New Vegas, Stick of Truth. They've worked on the Outer Worlds, and then also Pillars of Eternity, which is actually going to be really important to this topic, which we'll get back to here in just a moment. But like I said, Obsidian just knows how to make really good RPGs, like some of the best in the entire industry. But now that they've been acquired by Xbox and they're being funded by them, it'll be really exciting to see what they come up with this generation. And while they do have two big RPGs in development, one is the Outer Worlds 2, and then the other one would be Avowed. Now, they did reveal Avowed in a small teaser trailer in the past, though so far we don't really know much about this game. We just know that it's set in the Pillars of Eternity world, which is actually really exciting on its own, and that it's some kind of first-person RPG. Well, that's until today, because Jez Corden over at Windows Central has now leaked out a lot of new information regarding the Xbox exclusive Avowed. Now, apparently this information was obtained by pre-alpha documentation, footage, and screens, so there's actually quite a bit of information here. We will go over some of the key details today, though. If you do want to read the full article, I will leave a link in the description below. But the way this game is being described, and I think this is already going to get a lot of fans out there really excited, is that it's apparently a mix between Pillars of Eternity, Skyrim, and then also the Outer Worlds. And that's a combination of some truly great RPGs, and how it's actually inspired by all three of these games is actually where it gets really interesting. Now, the first big surprise, I think, when it comes to some of the leak details is that in terms of its art style, and keep in mind that this is still early on, but it's being described as being similar to the Outer Worlds, but a much more enhanced version. Obviously, with this game being developed for the Xbox Series, in terms of its visuals and graphics, it should be a pretty significant jump over the Outer Worlds, but its vibrant colors is being described as Outer Worlds-esque. That may be a little surprising because based off that initial teaser trailer, it did look a little bit more dark and gritty, but just keep in mind that this could only be one area of the game, while others might be a little bit more dark and gritty. So I'm not really going to look too much into the art style right now until we actually see official footage of this game and, you know, whether there's going to be drastically different biomes across the world. So I'm just going to kind of wait on all of that. In terms of its gameplay, though, this is where I think it is really, really exciting, because it sounds like it's a mix between Pillars of Eternity with its magic-based systems, and then you also have some elements from Skyrim, especially when it comes to dual wielding. Yes, you can dual wield in this game just like Skyrim, and we did see this in the teaser trailer before, but based off of what we're hearing, it sounds even more ambitious because they're really mixing in that Pillars of Eternity magic system. I mean, if you just want to dual wield daggers or something like that, you absolutely can do that in Avowed from the sounds of it, but it sounds like there's a lot more complexity in Avowed that really allows you to do some creative things with your character. This is something that Windows Central did mention, and let's just kind of check out what they said in terms of combat. The combat seems to be more loadout based than the Elder Scrolls, which gives you mountains of spells and a gigantic list. Warriors will get access to more physical attacks like swordplay, powerful kicks, and shield bashes, while casters will be given a range of spellbook options to customize and tailor their combat style with attacks bound to specific buttons. They also do mention that you can magically enchant different weapons, such as frozen arrows as an example. It does look like pillar-style guns will be making into the game, and then to just kind of top it off, apparently there's going to be plenty of status effects spells as well. So in terms of combat, it appears that this game is quite ambitious, and it offers a lot of different options to really build a character in how you want. I think we're going to see some really creative builds when this game does release, if all of this does make it into the final game. Now that is kind of the thing, because you know this is still in development, so some things may make it while some things might not, but I mean, it really does sound like it's taking that Pillars of Eternity combat and it's bringing it over to a first-person game like Skyrim. And I mean, it's one thing to have all of those things in a isometric style of RPG, I mean, but to bring that into a first-person game like this could really end up being a very special RPG if they do all this right. I mean, on paper, all of this sounds absolutely fantastic. Now we just kind of need to see it in person to see how this is actually implemented. And it also seems like they're being quite ambitious when it comes to environmental interactivity, which actually is well incorporated when it comes to combat. They do mention that it might have destructible environments, which is already really cool on its own. But what I found really interesting is how they're going to incorporate combat with environments. As an example, you might be able to use fire spells to just kind of cascade fire across the land, and that could have some really cool effects in terms of combat. Yeah, if Obsidian can pull all this off, I think they might be onto something really big here with Avowed. This game has a lot of potential based off of this leak, and my anticipation has shot way up when it comes to Avowed. Now I just can't wait to see this game, and that's kind of the big question right now. When are we actually going to see this game, and when will it release? Well, the good news here is that it does seem to be progressing very well, and Jez Gordon does believe that there's a good chance that we'll see Avowed in a playable state by E3 of 2022 at the latest. And he also does mention that maybe, just maybe, it could also be at the Game Awards this year. Now that does seem a little ambitious on his part, but he definitely seemed very impressed by everything that he has seen and heard when it comes to Avowed, so who knows, maybe we will see it here at the Game Awards, which, yeah, that show continues to sound really, really good. As for release date, it does sound like this game is set for a 2023 release, so it's still a little ways away, but I mean, based off everything we're hearing, the wait will be well worth it. Now, it does also look like an interesting game might be heading over to the Nintendo Switch sometime here soon, being Alan Wake Remastered. Of course, Alan Wake Remastered did launch earlier this month on October 5th for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And it really is just so cool to see all of these newcomers jump into Alan Wake for the first time and kind of see why fans have been asking for a sequel of this game for years and years. I mean, for one, it does have a really good story, and I think it's just an overall really good game. But that ending, yeah, it definitely has you wanting more, to kind of say the least. But unfortunately, there's one platform that unfortunately is kind of missing out when it comes to Alan Wake, and that would be the Nintendo Switch. And that is kind of odd because, I mean, this is an old Xbox 360 game, and it's definitely capable of running on the Nintendo Switch. Even with the remaster, I do still think it's capable of running on the Switch. And well, it does look like that might actually be happening after all. Yeah, so not only was Alan Wake Remastered rated by Brazil for the Nintendo Switch, but now also a Switch version was rated by the ESRB. So we do have a few different ratings for this game now, and a lot of the times when this does happen, an official announcement is made at some point thereafter. Sometimes this will be days later, sometimes weeks later, or even months in some situation. But a lot of the times when you start to see games get rated, especially from multiple outlets, yeah, a lot of the times this type of stuff does end up being true. We in fact just saw that earlier this year with that Castlevania Advanced Collection. We saw that rated at several different locations, and after months and months of talking about it, it did eventually get announced. So yeah, right now it is looking like Alan Wake Remastered is a real thing for the Nintendo Switch. Now we just kind of gotta hope that it's not gonna be yet another cloud-based game. We saw that with the Kingdom Hearts collection, and even though most of those games should probably be able to run on local hardware, for whatever reason, they decided to make those cloud-based games. I really hope we don't see something similar here with Alan Wake, because again, I think this is yet another game that should be able to run on the Nintendo Switch hardware. Nonetheless, what I will say is Alan Wake is a fantastic game, and I would highly recommend checking out if it does indeed release for the Switch sometime here soon. And then hopefully, just hopefully, we get the official announcement for Alan Wake 2 sooner rather than later. It's been far too long of a wait for that sequel. Let's go ahead and take a look at the poll of the day, though, and this has been an ongoing topic ever since Metroid Dread was initially announced. There has been a lot of excitement when it comes to this game, whether that be from long-term fans or actually with a lot of newcomers as well. So there has been that question with all the anticipation that's built up around this game. Will this game finally be the breakout hit for the Metroid franchise and become the best-selling entry in the entire franchise? And well, we did get some new information revealing that Metroid Dread has already become the fastest selling entry over in the UK. And with that in mind, I wanted to ask you all, now that Metroid Dread has gotten off to a fast start in the UK, do you believe it will become the best selling entry in the franchise? And you all seem very confident in this one, with 71% of you saying yes, while only 19% of you said no. Now, I'm very curious to hear the 19% and why they said no here, but yeah, 71%, that is the large majority here, and I do completely 100% agree with you all. I've said it over and over again, there's just too many things in favor when it comes to Metroid Dread. Of course, there's been a lot of anticipation that's built up around this game. The Nintendo Switch effect is a very real thing. It seems like every game sells better on the Nintendo Switch just in general. The Metroidvania genre has exploded in recent years. And then to just top it off, Metroid Dread has been very well received by critics. So there just seems to be so many things in favor for Metroid Dread to, become the best-selling entry in the entire franchise. Myself, I really do hope it becomes that, because I would like to see more games like this in the future from Nintendo. I think the Metroid franchise needs more recognition, and I think something else that some of these big publishers need to realize is that not every game needs to be a big 3D game. I think there's a very real market for some of these 2D style games, and I think Metroid Dread right now is currently proving that. Now, I'm just kind of hoping we see something similar happen with the Castlevania franchise. Let's bring that back in a 2D form as well. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.